Hannah, and my topic was leadership trait theory. So there are numerous definitions of leadership that have been created over the years. Here are a few to start. A process whereby an individual influences a group of individuals to achieve a common goal, and that is cited from Northouse 2019. Second one is any act of influence on a matter of organizational relevance. That's cited from Johns and Moser 1989. And the last one is the focus of group processes as a matter of personality, as a matter of inducing compliance, as the exercise of influence, as particular behaviors, as a form of persuasion, as a power relation, as an instrument to achieve goals, as an effect of interaction, as a differentiated role, as an intuition of structure, and as many combinations of these definitions. And that's from Bass 1990. The trait approach was one of the first systematic attempts of studying leadership. Traits were studied to figure out what made a leader great. This approach had lots of interest because of how it explained the influence of these traits on leaders. The theories developed were called great men theories because they focus on identifying the natural qualities and characteristics that great leaders had. So, for example, Joan of Arc, Abraham Lincoln, and Catherine the Great were some examples of great men. It was said that everyone was born with these traits, but only the great men possessed them, which separated the leaders from the followers. So, an important person for this trait approach is Ralph Stockdale. He was considered a leader in leadership research. Ralph completed his bachelor and master's degree in psychology at Ohio State University in 1930. He studied clinical psychology as a doctoral student from 1931 to 1934 and received his PhD. He remained very active on the Ohio State campus, where he was a member of Ohio State Leadership Studies, where then he became an associate director of the Leadership Studies, and then a research associate. Then he became professor of business organization in 1960, and in 1968 he was professor of management sciences and psychology, as well as the director of the Leadership Studies. Ralph's first article of leadership was called Personal Factors Associated with Leadership, a Survey of the Literature. This was a turning point not only in his career, but also in the study of leadership. Ralph challenged the trait approach in the mid-20th century by suggesting that an individual with leadership traits who was a leader in one situation might not be a leader in another situation. And this is cited from Northouse 2019 and Hackle 1980. Stockdale had 2 surveys, and the results from the surveys make it more helpful to understand how individuals' traits contribute to the leadership process. This first survey consisted of 124 trait studies between 1904 and 1947. This survey used trait studies that resulted in 8 traits that an average person with a leadership role made them different than an average group member. The 8 traits consist of intelligence, alertness, insight, responsibility, intuition, persistence, self-confidence, and sociability. And this is cited from Northouse 2019. So Stockdale's second survey consisted of another 163 studies between 1948 and 1970. This survey was positive traits that connected with leadership. Those 10 characteristics were the drive for responsibility and task completion, vigor and persistence in pursuit of goals, risk-taking and originality in problem-solving, drive to exercise intuitive and social situations, self-confidence and sense of personal identity, willingness to accept consequences of decisions and action, readiness to absorb interpersonal stress, willingness to tolerate frustration and delay, ability to influence another person's behavior, and capacity to structure social interaction systems to the purpose of hand. And this is cited from Northouse 2019. There are 5 major leadership traits that resulted in a century of research on the trait approach. Those 5 traits are intelligence, self-confidence, determination, integrity, and sociability, as I will explain these in the next few slides. And this is cited from Northouse 2019. So the first trait is intelligence. Intelligence for leadership is defined as a trait that contributes to a leader's achievement of complex problem-solving skills and social judgment skills. Intellectual traits are a leader's ability to use reason and is positively related to leadership. There was a study conducted that results showed leaders tend to have higher intelligence than non-leaders. Having higher intelligence made them better leaders because of strong verbal ability and perceptual ability and reasoning. It was also shown that it could be difficult for leaders with higher intelligence to communicate with a follower because their ideas would be too advanced for the follower to understand. An example would be Steve Jobs. He was the CEO and founder of Apple, and it's a good example of a leader whose intelligence was a key trait. This is cited from Northouse 2019, Subrack, and Trombley 2007. So the second one is self-confidence. Self-confidence is defined as the ability to be certain about one's abilities and skills, or can also be defined as a leader's beliefs in oneself and one's abilities. Self-confidence can include other traits in oneself, such as sense of self-esteem and self-assurance, as well as one believes that they can make a difference. This affects a leader because it ensures oneself that how they are influencing others is positive and correct. So another example, again, is Steve Jobs, because people tended to doubt him when he would tell them about his ideas on devices that he wanted to create, but he always believed in himself and did what he wanted. And this is cited from Northouse 2019 and Subrack and Trombley 2007. The third is determination. It is defined as the desire to get the job done. Determination has few characteristics that help describe it, which are intuitive, persistence, dominance, and drive. An individual with determination will assert themselves, be proactive, and have the capacity to persevere even when things are challenging. An example of determination is Dr. Paul Farmer, who was determined to secure health care and eliminate tuberculosis from third world countries. He started traveling and studying at a young age, where he got an education and founded his own charity. This is cited from Northouse 2019. So the fourth one is integrity. It can be defined as the quality of honesty and trustworthiness, or a leader's ethical standards and abilities to be truthful. An individual with integrity will take responsibilities for one's actions, inspire confidence in other individuals. They can be trusted, they are dependable, they are worthy, and they are loyal. Integrity has been questionable and a big factor in our society. An example would be the impeachment proceedings during the Bill Clinton presidency, because people of the United States were demanding for more honesty from the public officials. And this was cited from Northouse 2019 and Subrack and Trombley 2007. So the last one is sociability. It can be defined as a leader's tendency to seek out pleasant social relationships and or a leader's ability to create pleasant relationships with others. An individual with sociability has qualities such as that they are friendly, they're outgoing, they're courteous, they have good interpersonal skills, they're tactful, diplomatic, and they are sensitive and caring to others' needs. An example would be Michael Hughes, who is a university president. He likes to walk around campus, eat meals in the dining facilities, and write personal letters to individuals to congratulate them on their success. He does this all so he can interact with the students, staff, and faculty on a personal level and establish good relationships with everyone around him. This can be cited from Northouse 2019 and Subrack and Trombley 2007. Along with the major 5 leadership traits, there are 5 big personality factors. These factors include neuroticism, the tendency to experience fear, sadness, embarrassment, anger, guilt, and distrust. Individuals high in neuroticism have a more difficult time dealing with stress. Low neuroticism was 4th most strongly associated with leadership. Extroversion, the tendency to be assertive, active, and talkative. These individuals like excitement and they are optimistic and cheerful. This factor was most strongly associated with leadership. Openness is defined as openness to experience. These people are curious and willing to explore new ideas. This usually means that they can be associated with an individual who has an imagination and is open-minded to working in new or different ways. And this factor was 3rd most strongly associated with leadership. The 4th is agreeableness, the tendency to be sympathetic and helpful with others. They are helpful with others and believe others will be just as helpful to them in return. This factor was only weakly associated with leadership. And the last one, conscientiousness, is is the tendency to be purposeful, strong-willed, punctual, and reliable. They will engage in an active process of planning, organizing, and carrying out tasks. It also reflects the extent to which a person is dependable, obedient, and achievement-oriented. This factor was second most strongly associated with leadership. And this is all cited from Northouse 2019, Keller 1999, and Jewell et al. 2011. So how does this approach work? It focuses more on the leader and not on followers or the situation, what makes this trait more straightforward. This approach is mainly concerned about what traits a leader has and who actually has those traits. This approach also focuses more on how important it is to have a leader with a certain set of traits because that is central to the leadership process. It suggests that an organization will work better if the individual in charge has designated leadership profiles, so an organization will be specific on characteristics and traits that are important to them, and will use that to find the right individual that will fit their needs. This approach is used personally so an individual can have an idea of their own strengths and weaknesses, in which will develop awareness and development and how they fit into their work environment. This is cited from Northouse 2019. So just like individuals, this trait approach had its own strengths and weaknesses. For its strengths, it was intuitively appealing. It was a century of research. There's a century of research to back it up, and it's more conceptual in nature. For its weaknesses, it delimited a definitive list of leadership traits. It failed to take situations into account, failed to look at traits in relationship to leadership outcomes. It took a useful approach, or it's not a useful approach for training and development for leadership. And this is cited from Northouse 2019. So this is the leadership trait questionnaire. The purpose of this questionnaire is to measure personal characteristics of leadership. The questionnaire should be completed by the leader and 5 people who are familiar with the leader. This can be a coworker, someone they live with, a friend, a relative, just anyone that knows them. And so using this, the scale below, each individual will indicate if they agree or disagree, 1 being strongly disagree and 5 being strongly agree to the 14 statements. So for example, for determined, takes a firm stand, acts with certainty. So if you were taking this and you thought you did that, you would rank it 5 because you strongly agree. If you think you don't, but not, you can a little, kind of, you would do 2 for like disagree, and you do that for all 14. And then you want to complete one for yourself as well. So for the scoring, you would enter the responses for raters 1 through 5 in the appropriate columns as shown in the table I'll show on the next slide. The examples provide hypothetical ratings to help explain how the questionnaires can be used. So out of the 14 items, you would take the average ratings of all those, and then in the next chart, you would rank it, and then you would write your own score as well. So this is the ratings chart I was just talking about when you're talking about scoring. So it'll be the 5 people that rated you, and you'll take the average of all 14 of the items, and then at the end you'll put the scores of your self-rating. And the scores you received on the questionnaire provide information about how you see yourself and how others see you as a leader. The chart allows you to see where your perceptions are the same as those of the people that rated you and where they differ. And all this and all the charts are cited from Northouse 2019. And that is the end. These are just my references for everything.